my name's Sam Hairsine from the Royal Marines Band Service, and in this brass building block video in collaboration with the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain, I'm going to talk to you about developing your inner ear. As you practice well, you will gain an automatic response to the music you see. You will pitch intervals correctly and be able to hear the music on the page without playing it. Technical exercises, singing and specific oral training are all great ways to develop this skill. The Kodai method is a well-established way of developing sight singing, and with it the ability to read and pitch music accurately. 333 Elementary Exercises in Sight Singing is a well-established book published by Boosey and Hawkes. The Annie O. Warburton book Graded Oral Tests is also good for developing oral ability, especially if you have someone willing to play the piano for you. Developing the ability to hear a range of music internally when using notation requires a knowledge of style and context, as well as the ability to play the notes. Having a really clear idea of what a piece of music is supposed to sound like will help you to play it as you wish. The title of the piece and composer is a great place to start. A nocturne, for instance, suggests there's night, and with it, perhaps a sense of calm. A tarantella, on the other hand, is an Italian dance that gets progressively faster, once reputed to have been used to sweat out the bite of a spider. Knowing this will allow you to approach the music with a good idea of the style before you play a note. For the tarantella, you might use quite a hard articulation, different perhaps to the nocturne, and you may wish to consider how you'd use different types of vibrato. Knowing something about composers will help you to hear the music inside your head too. An aria by Mozart, a composer from the classical era, will demand a different approach to an aria by Verdi, who is writing his great works 50 years or more after the former's death. Although a relatively short time separates them, knowing music had entered the Romantic era and the profound changes it brought is crucial. Why? Well, performance practice is an important area to look into. It can involve replicating the conventions and unwritten rules that musicians use at the time of composition, performing on period instruments and trying to understand the composer's intentions for the piece. It is a huge area and not one short of controversy, so always remember your audience when making your decisions as well. Practically speaking, think about articulations, dynamics and ornaments. In an ensemble, a Mozartian forte is quite different to a Wagnerian one. Phrasing is much more regular in the classical period, and this will inform where you breathe. Harmonies are used differently, and an atonal piece of music will need really high-level oral skills to hear properly in your head. As you're looking slightly ahead as you play the music, the background knowledge will tell you how to execute a turn appropriately for the period the music was written, or at least inform your choice of how you are going to play it. If your instrument was not invented at the time the piece was written, then you've got to make a decision on how you want to do it and the context that you're playing in. An example of this is Mendelssohn's Overture in C, Opus 24. In one of the versions he wrote, there's an instrument called the corno inglese di basso. He drew a picture of it in a letter to his sister, but it still isn't clear exactly what this instrument was. He was writing for the local town band whilst he was on holiday. The euphonium is a good substitute, but playing in a small woodwind ensemble requires a knowledge of phrasing, dynamic range and what sound you wish to create that will be different to those you'd employ in a brass band playing a modern test piece. Hearing it in your head before you start will save you any embarrassment in the first rehearsal and allow you to make music from the very first note. This knowledge comes with practice playing different styles in different ensembles and by listening to different people play them. A sound knowledge of music history and theory will serve you well and will reward your endeavour with successful and enjoyable performances and a good inner ear.